couldn't surprise me much. I knew very well that except for the huge planets like Earth, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus, which have been given names, there are hundreds of others that are sometimes so small that it's very difficult to see them through a telescope. When an astronomer discovers one of them, he gives it a number instead of a name. For instance, he would call it Asteroid 325. I have serious reasons to believe that the planet the little prince came from is actually asteroid B612. This asteroid has been sighted only once by telescope. In 1909 by a Turkish astronomer who had then made a formal demonstration of his discovery at an international astronomical congress. But no one had ever believed him on account of the way he was dressed. Grown-ups are like that sometimes. Fortunately for the reputation of asteroid B612, a Turkish dictator ordered his people on pain of death to wear European clothes. The astronomer repeated his demonstration in 1920. That's a picture of the astronomer right there. The drawing. So the astronomer repeated his demonstration in 1920, wearing a very elegant suit, and this time everyone believed him. And that's him now actually wearing an elegant suit, so that people would actually believe him. If I've told you these details about asteroid B, if I've told you these details about asteroid B612, and if I've given you its number, it is on account of the grown-ups. Grown-ups like numbers. When you tell them about a new friend, they never ask questions about what really matters. They never ask, what does his voice sound like? What games does he like best? Does he collect butterflies? No. They ask instead, how old is he? How many brothers does he have? How much does he weigh? How much money does his father make? Only then do they think they know him. If you tell grown-ups, I saw a beautiful red brick house with geraniums at the windows and doves on the roof, they won't be able to imagine such a house. You have to tell them, instead, I saw a house worth 100,000 francs. Then they'll exclaim, what a pretty house! A little sneak peek into the prince on his little asteroid. Remembering. So if you tell them the proof of the little prince's existence is that he was delightful, that he laughed, and that he wanted a sheep. When someone wants a sheep, that proves he exists. It's as simple as that. They shrug their shoulders and treat you like a child. But if you tell them the planet he came from is asteroid B612, then they'll be convinced. And they won't bother you with their questions. That's the way they are. You must not hold it against them. Children should be very understanding of grown-ups. But of course, Those of us who understand life couldn't care less about numbers. I should have liked to begin this story like a fairy tale. I should have liked it to say instead, once upon a time, there was a little prince who lived on a planet hardly any bigger than he was, and who needed a friend. For those who understand life, that would sound much truer. The fact is, I don't want my book to be taken lightly. Telling these memories is so painful for me. It's already been 6 years since my friend went away, taking his sheep with him. If I try to describe him here, it's so I won't forget him. And I might become like the grown-ups who are no longer interested in anything but numbers. Which is still another reason why I've bought a box of paints and some pencils. It's hard to go back to drawing at my age when you've never made any attempts since the one of a boa from inside and the one of a boa from outside at the age of 6. I'll certainly try to make my portraits as true to life as possible. But I'm not entirely sure of succeeding. One drawing works, and then the next no longer bears any resemblance. And I'm a little off on his height too. In this one, the little prince is too tall. And there, and here, and there, he's too short and just not quite right. And I'm uncertain about the color of his suit, so I grope in one direction and another as best as I can. And in the end, I'm sure to get certain more important details all wrong. But here, you'll have to forgive me. My friend never explained anything. Perhaps he thought I was like himself. But I, unfortunately, cannot see a sheep through the sides of a crate. I may be a little like the grown-ups. I must have grown old. Every day I'd learn something about the little prince's planet, about his departure, about his journey. It would come quite gradually in the course of his remarks. This was how I learned on the 3rd day about the drama of the baobabs. This time too, I had the sheep to thank, for suddenly the little prince asked me a question, as if overcome by a grave doubt. Isn't it true that sheep eat bushes? Yes, that's right, I told him. Ah, I'm glad. I didn't understand why it was so important that the sheep should eat bushes. But the little prince added, and therefore, they eat baobabs too, right? I pointed out to the little prince that baobabs are not bushes but trees as tall as churches, and that even if he took a whole herd of elephants back to his planet, that herd couldn't finish off a single baobab. The idea of the herd of elephants made the little prince laugh. We'd have to pile them on top of one another. But he observed perceptively. Before they grow big, baobabs start out by being little. True enough, I said. But why do you want your sheep to eat little baobabs? I asked. He answered, oh, come on, you know. As if we were talking about something quite obvious. And I was forced to make a great mental effort to understand this problem all by myself. Why could it be? And, in fact, on the Little Prince's planet, there were, as on all planets, good plants and bad plants. The good plants come from good seeds, and the bad plants come from bad seeds. But the seeds are invisible. They sleep in the secrecy of the ground until one of them decides to wake up. Then it stretches and begins to sprout, quite timidly at first. A charming, harmless little twig reaching toward the sun. If it's a radish seed or a rosebush seed, you can let it sprout all it likes. But if it's a seed of a bad plant, you must pull the plant up right away, as soon as you can recognize it. As it happens, there were terrible seeds on the Little Prince's planet, baobab seeds. The planet's soil was infested with them. Now, if you wanted to attend to a baobab too late, you can never get rid of it again. It overgrows the whole planet. Its roots pierce right through its roots. And if the planet is too small, and if there are too many baobabs, they make it burst into pieces. It's a question of discipline, the Little Prince told me later on. When you finish washing and dressing each morning, you must tend your planet. You must be sure you pull up the baobabs regularly, as soon as you can tell them apart from the rose bushes, which they closely resemble when they're very young. It's very tedious work, but very easy.